Hey guys, welcome back to Nioh 2. So this is my first build. It's an early game build. It's built from axe and tonfas. It uses paralysis and it's surprisingly effective given its simplicity. I'll show you the breakdown of how I've put it together, my stats as things stand right now. I'll also show you where I've put some of my skills and some of the extra bits and pieces that really bring this build to life. One of the main things I want to show you actually is the applications. So it's the little scenarios that you can use, and this shows off how the build is so versatile. First of all, I'm going to show you a snippet of how it can get you out of trouble. So this is a clip of a Let's Play that I'm literally just about to upload. So I was playing this live. I wasn't sure it was going to work, but you'll see how it panned out. I might just take this guy out on his own. Oh, bloody hell, that guy shot me right in the... Whoa, okay. Here we go again. Boom. Nice. Okay, yeah, so it works. So what I did there was basically paralyzed a lot of them and just going like a crazy ass berserker. So in essence, this early build is made of a number of parts. So you need very basic ninjitsu skills. You need to be able to use the paralysis coating for your weapon and the paralysis bomb for AoE situations. In terms of weapons, I'm using the axe as my main and tonfas as my backup. Now the reason for that is the axe is really powerful and it's great for just completely overwhelming your enemy. The tonfas are great for kind of when you need to be a little bit more agile, you need to dodge more, but they're great because they apply the paralysis really effectively, so you can really just nuke down maybe 3 or 4 hits and then you're ready to do a grapple move, which is fantastic when you've got a group of enemies. You can line them up basically. What I'm looking for from this build, for any of you that have watched some of my stuff, you know that I'm a really big fan of versatility. That's what I'm looking for with this build. I like to be able to cover a number of scenarios. So let's have a quick look at the stats that I'm using at the moment. My main focus has been courage and stamina. Those are just really for weapon damage for the tonfas and for the axe. Obviously I get the plus side that I get the key recovery, I get extra key, I get extra life. They all line up really well just for a base level build. I've also added a couple of points into skill and dexterity, and that's simply for the ninjitsu, just to give me a little bit more capacity. I can carry a little bit more. The extra stamina and a little bit of strength also means that I can put on mid-level armor, not the heaviest stuff, but good enough to give me a decent amount of protection without losing too much of my agility. So let's have a look at some of the skills that make the build possible. These are integral to the functionality of the build. So let me just talk you through some of my choices and then I'll jump straight into the applications and show you how it looks in action. So first off, we're going to take a quick look at the samurai tree. So these aren't really integral to the build, but they are real quality of life abilities that you can have. Ideally, you want to open all the key pulse abilities that you can get. So ultimately, what this does, the key pulse man, key pulse earth, etc., it gives you the ability to dodge and automatically trigger your key pulse, and that makes a massive difference instead of having to remember to manually do it. Now those abilities are actually the second tier that you open, so prioritize the stance that you prefer, be it high, mid, low. Ultimately you want to open all of them really. So next we'll take a look at the axe abilities that are important here. So you want to unlock Mad Spinner 1 and Mad Spinner 2. That allows you to continue your spin and gradually speed up and do more and more damage. Another ability that I found really useful is called the adamantine or adamantine. It diminishes your ability to dodge and run. It hits your mobility pretty hard, but it prevents you from being staggered and it also buffs your defense pretty dramatically. So it means you can wade into a group of enemies, and if you combine that with Mad Spinner, it's pretty intense. It's pretty useful, but it's not to be used for every single fight. Another ability that I found really useful in mid stance is the running man. I'll show you that one in action. In essence, it basically lets you put your head down and charge at the enemy, and in a lot of cases you'll knock them down and be able to grapple them straight away. So as you can see, this build is mainly about overwhelming force and interrupts on the enemy to stop them getting their attacks off and make sure yours get in and hit hard. Ultimately, as this is an early game build, really it's just a stepping stone to help you get through the early elements of the game. It's about crowd control and managing the damage that's incoming. So in the Tonfa skill tree, I've really only gone down the right hand side. The main skill I wanted was the active one called Wild Lions. Basically, again, it's another crowd control. So imagine you're doing this spinning dervish kind of attack and you're hitting everything around you and your tonfas are coated in paralysis. It's pretty useful. So that brings us on to the ninja tree. Ultimately, all you're looking for here is the hemlock broth and the Medusa powder abilities. Now you can invest more points later to make these more efficient so you can carry more capacity, but ultimately all you need to do initially is to open up these skills. There's one more ability here that I'd really recommend, but it does require some prerequisites. So it's called Enlightenment, and that'll speed up the time it takes for you to buff yourself. So if you end up in a situation mid-fight and you need to add the paralysis to your weapons, that'll make it more achievable when you're in the middle of a scrap. Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts here. It's actually not that complicated. Let me show you how it looks in practice. I'll show you a few practical applications. Okay, so option one, you've got a guy or maybe a couple of guys who are approaching. You can use the axe in mid stance with the running man ability and just charge one of them down. You knock him straight off his feet and hit him straight into a grapple. That normally takes care of him with the axe being as powerful as it is. At this point you whip out the tonfas for a bit more maneuverability and nuke the next guy down. Even at base level the tonfas are pretty impressive. The whole point of this build is disabling the first guy really quickly and putting him out of action so that you can focus on the second one. So I'll show you that clip at full speed. Yes. So bear in mind, this is just using your weapons at the base level. This isn't involving the paralysis yet. Now, the reason for that is because with it being such an early level build, you won't be able to carry too many of these. So you want to use those for your kind of oh shit moments. For now, what we're demonstrating is that the build and the weapons setup that you've got is solid all on its own. So the next scenario is with the axe. Now this is if you thought you had one enemy, it turns out to be two, which is what happened in this clip. And somehow instead of lining them up as you should to keep them both in front of you, you end up with one behind you. Spin is the answer. Just in case they're creeping up behind you, you'll damage them automatically. And in this clip it was actually okay. I managed to survive it all right. The guy didn't come close enough, but I was just doing it as a precaution. So scenario 3 is more of a set piece. This is when you know you're walking into a fight, you know there's more than one of them, or it might be a particularly tricky enemy that you've died to before. So you use the hemlock on your tonfas and you can go in swinging basically. So the tonfas hit so fast and you're so agile that what happens is when you've got the hemlock, the paralysis on your tonfas, because you're hitting so quickly, it interrupts the enemy's attacks, which is really nice. So on this fight here, I managed to paralyze him, but I missed my window and carried on attacking. I tend to get a little excited with the tonfas, but then he started to block me, which made the fight more difficult than it needed to be. So I just whipped out the axe and just battered him down. So the last two scenarios to take you through, this one is actually my favourite. It's where I was lacking before. So what would happen is I would get jumped on by 3 or maybe even 4 enemies at once, and I'd have no counter for it. I'd have no defence. The Medusa powder bomb really evens the odds. Combine that with the mad spinner ability and you can just take down crowds of enemies in no time at all. In the clip you're watching here, had I been a little bit braver and started my spin a little closer to my enemies, I feel like I could have taken the whole pack out in one spin. However, as it was, I bottled it and started spinning a little bit too early, but I think you get the idea and see the capabilities. So for the final scenario, it covers bosses and demons in essence. It doesn't really use the paralysis in this case. It actually taps into the Omnio magic, your very baseline ability. I know I didn't mention it earlier, but it's your very baseline ability to bless your weapon. And what this does, it pretty much has the same effect. You can stun lock bosses with this if you can get your timing right. The weapon blessing basically just gives you the ability to take away the boss's key energy. So as soon as that happens, you'll notice them stagger, and then every subsequent attack for a short time, they can't attack back. You can basically stun lock them and just keep attacking until something happens and they get the key energy back. Right guys, I hope you found that useful. It's not a build in the sense that it makes you completely overpowered. There's no cheese involved. To be honest with you, I'm not a fan of cheesing bosses or cheesing mechanics. I prefer to do the game the right way, otherwise I feel like it ruins the experience. What I feel that this build gives us is a little bit of an edge in really tricky, unpleasant situations, and I hope you find it useful. If you did, do me a favour, leave me a like, leave me a comment, usual thing. Subscribe if you fancy seeing more, and hopefully I shall see you for the next video. Take it easy guys, thanks again for joining me. See you now, bye bye.